I would like to call the regular board meeting for the PPH CSD to order at 5 o'clock exactly. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let it be noted that all directors are present. Mr. Bartz, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay.
I'll move the agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Do we have all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed, 5-0. We have no one for public comment tonight. And Samuel Shoup online for community reports.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I apologize I've missed the last few meetings or so. I just wanted to make sure I show up here, give a brief update, and first remind everybody if anyone has any issues with county departments, I apologize. I'm with Supervisor Paul Cook's office for those who may be watching and don't know me. If anyone has any issues with departments within the county bureaucracy or any suggestions of improvements that can be made, anything of that nature, as always, encourage them to reach out to our office, to me directly, so that we can assist in the best way possible. Just a brief update on the county at the moment. The board is just beginning the initial stages of the budget approval for the next fiscal year. We recently had our initial fee hearing for increases, decreases, and alterations to county fees. This hearing took place this month. We had initial budget presentations as well for other increases that may come into play. We're expecting the initial budget hearings and fee workshop next month, a budget hearing in May. As we move forward in that process, I'll be sure to keep you all updated on anything specific that will change for our area, for the CSD specifically, or anything of interest to our residents. We'll be sure to keep everybody updated for that. But beyond that, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer however I can. If not, I'll stick around if you need me.
Are there any questions, Mr. Shoup? Nope. I just want to say thank you to Supervisor Cook's office and yourself for being involved in the Phelan Road meetings and trying to move that project along. You've been a great help with that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we're very excited the progress we're hoping to make with those, and I'm always happy to get out to Phelan and speak with you guys, see how we can improve these sorts of things. So I appreciate you guys for setting those up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the information.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll move on to item 3, consent calendar. Does anybody have any items that they would like to pull? And if not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move the consent items.
I'll second it.
Okay. With the motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No one opposed. 5-0. Motion passes. And then there was no matters removed from the consent calendar. No presentations and appointments. Continued new agenda items. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 6A is going to be a discussion about increasing the district's water production over the next few years. And as part of the Chromium 6 project, years ago we had plans partially completed for a line down to the dairy. And that was going to be a very expensive project. But after we finished up our latest well, we're looking at where the next well would be situated, the best option for getting the district water up into our system. So we we did run this by engineering, and we presented three different ideas.
Option number one is running a pipeline from our newest well 15, down to the dairy property. Quite a long distance, about 5.8 miles.
And it actually has a good water supply down there
at the dairy from some of the wells. George's Field, I believe, is 1,300 gallons a minute.
We have a couple of other wells on the
Meadowbrook site,
which are in the range of,
I'd say 300 to 500 gallons per minute.
So
we would pick up quite a bit of capacity with that.
And the cost for that is
just a little over our budget. We have
right around $2 million
budgeted for this project.
Our initial estimates are
somewhere around $2.2 million for that.
And as
we go through this, I'll kind of explain in a nutshell what there. I'm sure everybody's read the memos.
But I also went a step further, and I broke it down into dollars per gallon of new production for the district. And again, I took kind of the average what we thought would get out of the wells and the average cost of what we thought it would take to construct the wells.
So option number one comes in at about $1,800 per gallon
of new water
that we'd bring into the system.
And I'll go through
these, then we can step back and ask any questions you would have about that.
Option number two is
drill a new well,
number 18
at Azalea Road turnout.
So this well is about
approximately a mile from the last well that we drilled.
Pretty good capacity
in the area, and we think that we would probably hit water. You might get a little bit more, you might get less, you might get nothing. There's no guarantee when you sink a hole in the ground for this.
And that well is expected to produce somewhere around 700 gallons
per minute.
So 6 to 800
gallons. I picked the middle at 7.
And which is
it's not a bad option. It's actually would definitely help the district, but we want to look at the cost effectiveness of this and what the best option for the district would be.
So to break that one down, option number two is about $2,570
per gallon.
So
it's a little bit more.
We were
$1,800 per gallon for the first one. $2,570 for the second one.
And the third one
is to drill a new well.
16
at the filling station.
The reason
that we have well number 15
is what we just
drilled. Well number 16 hasn't been drilled yet, and we were calling the other one well number 18 is because we have already had CSD done on this project, and this is one at the filling station on Sheep Creek Road, which would go right into the system.
We don't expect
with that well
that we
would get very good production,
and we're thinking about
3 to 500 gallons per minute for that well.
With the
reduced production in that well
and the cost
still being about
close to
$1.7 million for that is about $4,125 per gallon.
So that's
when I started breaking it down per gallon, it kind of started falling into place for me.
Now, what we're asking for tonight is for the board to look at the different options that we're presenting.
We're not asking to proceed with the project other than to choose a project
and start
kind of vetting the project a little bit more. There's a number of different things that we have to do. One project does not require CEQA because it's already done.
Option number two has some CEQA involved with that.
And option number three has a lot of the CEQA complete, option number one has a lot of the CEQA completed already,
and the
plans completed because that was part of the original Chromium 6 project.
So we had
about 50, we'd call them 50% plans. We got plan and profile alignments
for that already,
so we know where the pipeline would go,
how deep we're
going to need to go. So it's just
updating
those plans to make actual construction drawings for this project.
So what we're asking for is for the board to have a discussion
to
kind of vet the
concept of whatever option the board chooses to proceed with. Engineering committee did look at that,
and
the recommendation from the engineering committee was to really look hard at option number one, which is the line down to the dairy.
Something else that would be good for also is if we annex the property out into El Mirage. This would be basically a line that you could branch off of and serve properties in that area. It would expand the territory of the district where we could serve. And if it comes through with the train the next 50 years or so, if they can afford to do it, we would be in a good position to provide water for not only the construction, but any businesses that would come in because of that. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions, or Sean, if there's anything you want to add to that too?
I think covered it quite well.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bartz?
So option one is known amount of water, and the other ones would be guesses.
Yes, you are correct with that. George's Field, I think the test that we did several years ago was 1,350 gallons a minute out of that well, which would be by far our largest producing well. And then we do have options of tying in some other wells, and it would probably by the time you tied in those other wells, it could be double that capacity, maybe even more if you were able to tie in the one north of Ducommon up there.
Anybody else for questions?
So I understand the concept of option number one. I went through all of them. I like it. Just a little clarification of option number one. So would this tie the Meadowbrook Dairy wells up into to where you have the ability to pump up into the top of the system here?
Oh,
awesome. Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, because I think what this does is it provides a pipeline throughout our system, so it gives us redundancy to move water up and back and forth if, in case we get to really dire needs. And does that.
Option one would tie in an estimated 1,750 gallons a minute into our most northern distribution. And then from there it's boosted up through 5 different boosting facilities to get to the top of the hill.
And of the wells that are down there in Meadowbrook, which wells down there do we currently use or permitted to run into our system?
Meadowbrook Dairy currently is a non-community water system. We've signed an attestation because it's less than 5 connections serving less than 25 people. It's backteed once a year. We do as a favor, but being a non-community water system. Water quality and test pumping was done years ago. We have that data. There's no constituents of concern. We don't see any PFAS. We don't see any arsenic, chromium, vanadium. Nothing stands out.
Awesome. Yeah, being that it's used for non-community, non-transient water system.
If we look at page,
it's ran quite a bit. So
correct.
It's not like going out and test pumping a well where it shows it's good, but then you run it for sustained, and then the water quality changes. So we know that we're going to have good sustaend water quality down there.
That statement is true for the northwest well as labeled on map 48, page 48.
Right.
The furthest one. I'm not a name person. I like to call them numbers because well number 22 is not pumped all the time, but it was test pumped some years ago for a 24-hour cycle test. It behaves much like our other wells.
Perfect.
There's background traces of hexavalent chromium, but very minimal.
No, good work. I appreciate the presentation and that it was brought to engineering committee. So that's all I had. Thank you for the information.
Any other questions?
Yeah, engineering committee reviewed it, and originally I had thought another well, linking them up, but because we extended it out for the newest well, just putting the pipeline in, there's at least two wells down there that have the proper sanitary seals so that they could be a potable source. The quality is good, the volume is high. It looked like it was only logical sense, and it extends the district down to where we want to wrap that area into our not just our sphere of influence, but our boundaries. So.
Appreciate the work.
And this can be done without boosting facilities at the Meadowbrook property. Mathematically, it works out even using DR18 pipe, just as we did before, except we ran ductile. Sorry, but DR18 pipe would be capable of this as well.
Okay. Yeah, so what we would do if the board does choose the option that the engineering committee is suggesting, it doesn't mean we're going to stop on the other ones. Option number three, in my opinion, keep in our back pocket. If we need to have a well right away, everything's ready, we could drill a well and get some capacity to the system. But we will also continue looking at option number two. We would look for a piece of property that would be suitable. And as we come back with more refined costs for these projects, then we can take a look at it again, but we would like to focus on, I think, project number one.
And as Mr. Bart said, that the original Chromium 6 study, we had an engineering study done to bring the pipeline up to where the new well empties into the wells off the Sheep Creek Road area. So that it just a lot of it's already done. So more logic.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
A comment, I do like the fact that we already have a good chunk of the plans already with item one. Because of the Chromium 6 plans from, I forget how many years ago now.
2015.
Yeah, it's almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember the discussions about that, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the good thing is on a 10-year-old set of plans, nothing really changes except the potential for materials. A different type of material that comes out. Yeah. There's nothing in the way if you when we're out at the grand opening, the ribbon cutting for well 15, you'll be able to see pretty much right where the alignment would go, and the dairies in plain sight from there.
Any other questions or comments? No. Do we have a motion to move the item?
We just consensus.
Yeah, consensus is fine. Yeah.
I would agree with option one.
Yeah.
I'm okay with option one.
Agree.
Thank you.
We'll move on to 6B, discussion and possible action regarding extension of pump and well services contract. Mr. Barks.
Thank you, Mr. President. We entered into a service contract with General Pump in 2018, and that agreement is set to expire in April of 2024. And we've been using the contract for booster pump and well repair work that's been necessary. And they've done actually a pretty good job. There's a number of companies that do this type of work, but we've been satisfied with the work. They've offered an extension of their contract, which if you get down to the second paragraph under background, they've offered for a 9.5% increase from what the contract is right now. They would honor that for 2 more years. And if you look at the CPI in the area, in 2021 is 2.2, 2022 is 8.6, and 4.9. So there's just not even compounding those. It was 15.7%. So I think that a 9.5% increase would be saving the district money, and we're satisfied with the work that's been done in the past. And the engineering committee also reviewed this and came back with a recommendation to renew the contract with General Pump. And Sean's here for any questions you might have. Let's turn it over to Sean.
Any questions for Sean or Mr. Bartz? Good. Get a motion to move the item?
I'll make a motion to move the item to contract. General Pump for the additional fees indicated in the board report first after.
And I'll second that.
All right, with the motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No one opposed, motion passes 5-0. We'll move on to 6C, discussion and possible acceptance of 2024-2025 solid waste collection rates.
Thank you, Ms. Sebi is going to take this item.
All right. So our solid waste committee has reviewed these rates. We negotiated with CR&R to utilize a 4.3% CPI for the rates for the upcoming year. And then, of course, we're still planning on doing a rate study towards the end of the calendar year once we have better data on the cost of service for the three-cart collection system.
And so in
the packet, we see kind of a breakdown of common residential service.
So
The three-cart system for residents goes up from $30.98 to $32.31.
mind you,
The counties
in Oak Hills
in Oak Hills is going to be mid-40s.
So yay us. Commercial goes up
the same rate, 4.3%.
And
in the packet, of course, we have our letter from CRNR outlining what we negotiated along with the entire rate schedule.
And so staff
is recommending for the board to accept this rate increase
for the
July 1, 2024 bills.
Any questions from Ms. Sevig? Nope.
Yeah, just one question. The previous item had the CPI of 4.6, was it?
I don't know
what CPI they use. There's so many different CPI tables out there depending on your region. If you're using
a calendar
average or if you're using the most recent index data, which
our accounting
staff uses the November ending period for all upcoming calendar year.
So CRNR was fine with the 4.3?
Eventually they
were very fine with the 4.3, yes.
I think on the one, the 9.5 was during COVID in 21 on the report, and this one is for this past year.
Yeah, and then
I don't know if they're using the less energy. I don't know what Sean negotiated with
his contractor,
but I negotiated the 4.3% with CRNR.
That's fine. It's probably below. It's good.
And we will be
bringing forth a franchise amendment to codify
that index
and that metric
moving forward.
So we don't have the discrepancy from year to year as we did a historical analysis. There's really kind of no rhyme or reason
to which CPI
they used.
And no pass-through fees from the county.
And yes,
very good news. No pass-through fees at the tipping house for
disposal costs. That doesn't mean that they might not change it
in the future, but we do have that built into our existing rate structure to add those if we need to.
Any further?
I just wanted to make a comment and say thank you. You worked so hard on this entire topic, and you've made it as easy a transition as we could have possibly had.
Thank you. Now we'll see what our rate study brings forth at the end of the year.
And then we have to negotiate at that point.
But for now,
this is a nice modest
increase considering we didn't have an increase last year.
Right.
Do we have a motion to move item C?
All motion.
All second the motion? With the motion and the second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No one opposed, motion passes 5-0. Move on to 6D, which is update on the proposed Civic Center and Phelan Park expansion projects. Mr.
Yes,
Barnes.
just a short update on that. Staff is working with the whole design team on the project for the options for raising the building a couple feet or what we have to do with that. We don't have an answer yet, and they're working on some plans and getting the numbers for us. But by the next board meeting, we should have some indication of what those costs are going to be.
Any questions for Mr. Bartz? No. All right. With that, we will move on to item 7, committee reports and comments. Engineering committee.
Engineering committee met. The board has already reviewed 2 items. We also reviewed the system repairs and replacements, and there's minutes in the packet if anybody has any questions.
Finance committee?
Meets tomorrow. Correct?
You are correct. I forgot. Legislative committee.
Yeah, the legislative committee met last month. We have nothing to report out. Our representatives weren't present or didn't show up for the meeting, so it was a brief meeting.
Parks, Recreation, and Street Lighting Committee.
We haven't met since the last time we reported, so nothing new.
Waste and recycling.
We met last week and we went over the numbers we presented earlier in the meeting and the changes that will be coming soon to the contract. That's it.
Thank you very much. With that, we will move on to item 8, which is staff and general manager's report. Mr. Bartz.
I have nothing to report, but I think Sean probably has something he wants to report back to the board tonight.
Mr. Wright.
What'd you do today?
He's like,
Happy to report the hybrid PRV that the board approved several months ago is installed and functioning perfectly. It worked exactly as we'd hoped. So that mile and a half or so of 16-inch went from 140 PSI. Currently at 70, and we do intend, as soon as our hydraulic model confirms, to go even lower. I'm just trying to walk it down a little slow.
Any questions for Mr. Wright? No. Thank you very much.
Just have one comment. On page 83, it shows the monthly production, water consumption. And when we went to Mojave Watermaster, the engineer had asked the district about, developing a return flow model. And if you look at those numbers from November through February, they're pretty darn consistent. So I was just I think the way we had calculated to bring this topic to them, I think is pretty accurate. I think 95 to 99% of that is basically return flows. So those numbers are, I think, show what we had talked about.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? No. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 9, director's report. We'll start with Director Kuyaba.
nothing to report.
Director Schneider.
Nothing to report. It feels good to be sitting here in this seat instead of a remote meeting.
It's good to see you and not have to do a roll call vote. Director Roberts.
Nothing further.
Director Phillips.
I attended the ASB CSD meeting and they went over the importance of making stable water sources. Thank you.
And then I have nothing to report. So we'll move on to item 10, correspondence and information. Ms. Sevick.
Yes. So I did include the flyer that went out in our bills and CRNR bills regarding separate collection. Tried to spruce it up so people see something new. Maybe it'll catch their eye. And then I did put the well 15 dedication ceremony information in there. Just a reminder, it's next Thursday at 10 a.m. at the new well site. And that is all I have.
Move on to, are there any questions for Ms. Sevick? Nope. Okay. Move on to item 11. Were there any prior meeting action items?
There were none.
Good. And then, are there any current meeting action items?
There are none.
All right, we'll move on to item 12, set agenda from next meeting. Do any board members have any items you'd like to add to the agenda? Nope. Hearing none. We will recess to closed session at 5:28.